Hi, I'm Dr. Lakia Wright with the Right Now Allergy Live updates. And so we're just going to wait a minute or two to wait for people to join. So just hang tight. And I see some people joining. And I have a very special guest today. So
Hi,
here we go. Excellent.
hi,
And so,
Dr. Wright.
hi, how are you, Shahla?
I'm good. How are you?
Excellent. Pretty good. I'm just waiting for a couple more people to join, and so we'll get started in a minute or two.
Yay. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. We're very excited,
Oh
and
my
so I
God.
see quite a few people have joined now. And again, welcome to Right Now Allergy Updates with Dr. Wright. And again, I'm Dr. Wright. I'm Dr. Lakia Wright. I'm a board certified allergist and immunologist. I'm also medical director of U.S. Clinical Affairs and Immunodiagnostics Division at Thermo Fisher Scientific. And I want to welcome everyone. We have a very special guest, Shahla Rashid, and we're excited. Co-founder of Zestful, also food allergy mom and fierce food allergy advocate. And really, we're here today to talk to you about how to navigate some of the challenges that come along with a food allergy diagnosis, whether it's yourself, your family, or friends, and how you can really support the food allergy community. And that's really because in the spirit of May is Food Allergy Awareness Month. So we're here with our very special guest to talk about it. And I really want everyone out there to know that this video is really educational for information purposes, and we really want to encourage patients to or individuals to talk with their healthcare providers to get more information specific uh, to their circumstances. And so before I dive into all my questions that I have for Shahla, I am going to just talk about some of those staggering food allergy statistics. 32 million people affected by food allergies, diagnosed with food allergies. And so, that's a staggering number. It's a major public health issue. It's estimated that approximately 10% of adults, even estimated as high as 7% of children, affected by food allergies. And we know that, milk and egg are among the most common in infants and children, and then shellfish, followed by peanuts and tree nuts in sort of both groups. And so we know that when patients get the diagnosis, it can be overwhelming for themselves, for their families.
Mhm.
How often do I need to see my allergist? Will my child outgrow these food allergies, or I myself outgrow these food allergies? And so all these things sort of come up, and we really want to be able to support the food allergy community, and that's why we have Shahla here to tell us about her experience and to give us advice on how we can support the community and really share what her experience has been. And so with that being said, I'm going to ask you my first question here, which is, can you tell us about your personal story and why you're so passionate about food allergies?
Absolutely. First off, I just wanted to say thank you and thank you to Allergy Insider for being such a great resource and for providing us a platform so that we can have this open discussion. I think it's so important and I feel so grateful. So thank you. So a little bit about me. I'm a mom to two girls, ages 9 and 14. They both live with asthma and eczema. My 9-year-old has allergies to peanut, tree nuts, sesame, and a host of other seeds.
I see.
And so I've had a lifelong interest in food. I come from a large South Asian family where food has always been front and center.
Yes.
And I was always really great at eating food. I still am really good at eating food, but
Food feeds the soul.
it does, but not so great at cooking it. So when I became a mom, I realized that I wanted to learn how to become a better cook so that I could feed my family. And I became really interested in nutrition and the role that food plays in our health. And so I found a culinary school here in Berkeley that combined both interests. And so I ended up receiving my training as a natural chef. But as life would have it, it has its own plans. And so, 2 weeks into the program, both my children were diagnosed with food and environmental allergies. They were both hospitalized 2 weeks apart from each other. So, as you can imagine, my world was completely rocked, like completely turned upside down. My husband and I were not prepared for the social, emotional, physical impact that food allergies can take on a family. And so I pivoted. I decided I needed to take a step back and I started cooking in my kitchen because my kitchen felt like it was the only safe place. I knew exactly what
Yes.
was going into the food that we were eating and that I was giving to my kids. And I started, sharing that experience, what I learned from school and what I was doing at home. And I started blogging about it through my Berkeley Kitchen. And then through my blogging adventures, I met Courtney from Allergy Girl Eats, who is an allergy adult. And we became friends. And last year we launched Zestful, which is an online magazine dedicated to sharing not just our voices, but the diverse voices that exist in our community.
Yes.
So you could say I have a personal interest in this food allergy world. I really felt strongly that I wanted to help people and give back because of the challenges that we faced in our own family. But I also want to say that this community has given me so much back, and
Yes.
it's helped me to heal and continue, taking care of my family.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that experience, your experience with us, and telling us your personal story. And I'm going to ask my next question, which you sort of touched on. You know, how do you and your family, given, the challenges that you face, live your sort of best allergy friendly life? And I know you mentioned your website, and I was going through it and scrolling through, and my Berkeley Kitchen, and I noticed that when you told your personal story, you were saying that you're trying to protect your children from not having sort of any exposures, and of course that's the goal. But how challenging is that? And we just want to get a sense of that from you and share with the audience.
Absolutely. So I guess I could say when my child was first diagnosed with food allergies, I had this overwhelming sense of how am I going to keep her safe?
Yes.
How am I going to have these girls thrive? Because at the time, both of them had different needs with asthma, with my other child. So, I realized that that was, absolutely fear taking over. And so, what I tried to focus on was what I could control, which
Yes.
was, focusing on building my skills to help manage food allergies, which included things like meal prepping and batch cooking to help with the load of cooking at home from scratch, and also things like learning how to travel with food allergies. And what I learned over time is that the more I did those things, the more confidence I built up. It
Okay.
wasn't always seamless, like things didn't always go as you wanted them to, but over time you just sort of built up a little bit more. I like to call it tools in our allergy friendly toolkit.
Yes. I like that. I'm gonna take that.
Yeah. And then I started realizing that, as a family, we could do the things that we used to do before the diagnosis. It just might mean that it's a little bit of a different path. It might
Mhm.
mean thinking creatively to get there, but not letting fear take over all the time,
Yes.
and so the fear kind of diminished. And I think the biggest thing that I have to say for us was shifting our mindset and our perception of how we approach food allergies. So, for example, a couple years ago, we decided to go to Hawaii, and we were staying on a very remote part of the island. And we decided that we weren't going to eat out at all. We were just going to cook all of our meals from scratch. And, that might sound sad to someone else, but um, we wanted to make it more about the experience. And
Yes.
this is the way that we safely could do it for our family. And so we went and we, went to these beautiful farmers markets and would buy these beautiful local produce, and we would come home and make these meals together and cook together. And we didn't really miss like eating out at restaurants. It just became more about the experience of being together and sharing these memories together and creating these memories. So it was a different kind of travel than I had known, but it was a beautiful experience in itself. And so I think once we did that, it just changed our whole outlook around living with food allergies and like creating a more positive mindset around it.
Yes, I love the fact that you shared that about shifting the sort of mindset and how to positively sort of go forward. Of course, you have to, strictly avoid the food allergens, but at the same time, let's create a positive experience for your children, but also the whole family. And so that's great. Thank you so much for sharing that. And then my next question is, and you sort of touched on it with like, you have to well in advance do food prep and meal planning. And so how do you prepare for, like the simple everyday things like, going out to eat when you do decide to do that, or even, grocery shopping and reading all those labels and all the meal prep, because it can get sort of overwhelming. And so please tell us how you do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I can touch on the grocery shopping, I guess, first because we do more of that lately.
Okay,
But
yes, true.
right, fit and everything. But like most food allergy moms, I think for me, what has worked is I try to do more of the prep before I even get to the grocery store. So I like to meal plan at least like 3 to 4 times for the week. Um, Sometimes I like to do, for the whole week. I'm not always that organized, but that helps me so that I don't have to think about it. And I like to
Mhm.
get my kids involved in the
Oh,
process so that
yes.
they get excited about what is coming as far as food is concerned, and they get excited about the foods that they can eat, and hopefully they'll cook along with me. They'll cook
Yes.
some of the foods that they've chosen to eat, so that helps. It gives them some ownership, and they'll have to do it someday themselves anyway, so it sort of
Mhm.
helps build that allergy toolkit. And then once I get to the grocery store, I don't like to go to the grocery store when I'm tired or stressed or in a rushed uh, mindset, because we know that it's going to take us a little bit longer when we're at the grocery store because we're reading labels. And in our family, what we do is we read labels 3 times. So once we're at the grocery store, once when we come home, and then once when we actually eat or cook before we cook the food.
Yes.
So just to double check if it's, especially if it's a packaged item, obviously. And then, you know, uh, sometimes food allergy folks, like we get really tied to a brand. Once we find a brand that works for us, then we get really tied to that brand and we're really loyal to it. But sometimes, food allergy brand, I'm sorry, not food allergy brands, but brands in general will just change, packaging, they'll
Yes.
change labels, they'll change ingredients without telling you. And for example, one time we used to have this Oreo brand that was like, quote unquote, a little bit healthier for you. And
As
so,
healthy as Oreos can get, right?
right. So we really loved buying them, and I bought them as I normally do for the kids, and I brought them home, and as I was unloading, I completely missed that it had a may contain
Oh,
um,
I see. Yes.
warning on the bottom, which it had never had before, and so I couldn't believe I had missed it. So I did some research online, and wouldn't you know it, I mean, they had changed their facility, and I was so thankful that I checked the label again. But it was just one of those things where, the kids obviously were a little bit disappointed, but then at the same time, the silver lining is that, I think food allergy folks, like, we're really flexible. Like, we learn to be flexible. And luckily today, there's so many other brands out there. Like, if we
Yes.
lose a brand, then we're able to find another brand. It may not happen right away, but eventually. And so that teaches you something, and teaches the kids something. But a lot of times when I'm at the store, I'm like actually like in an aisle, like looking up, if let's say if there's a, food that isn't that I have a question on or something,
Mhm.
I'll be looking it up online on the website to see if there's been any change in allergen statements. Um, so that's the stuff that I think takes time. Today, there's a
Yes.
lot of really great um, resources out there. Like Spoken is a really great resource for vetting brands. So it's definitely come a long way as far
Mhm.
as uh, back in the day where you would have to like email every company. I still do some of that. If I have a question about a brand, I'll come home and I'll do some research. I won't purchase it right away. And then sometimes the companies are really good at responding, and sometimes it takes like weeks. Sometimes they don't respond.
Yeah, and that can be challenging too.
So then
Uh,
you just don't need it. So,
yes,
but that's
yes.
okay. There's like I said,
Other
it's
brands out
learn
there.
exactly. It's just learning to be flexible.
Excellent. And so I'm happy that you shared that. And so I get the common theme is learning to be flexible during your research, but also utilizing the resources that are out there that are helping to vet brands, because that is, in the community compared to like in the past, we've come, so much further along. And then my next question, tell me about your experience with healthcare providers and how you sort of, navigated, with pediatrician to your allergist, and how that experience has been and how you sort of facilitated the conversation.
Sure. So because my girls manage multiple things, asthma, eczema, food allergies, there have been periods of time where we're seeing like 5 to 6 doctors at once,
Hmm.
specialists and pediatrician and allergist. So you're the perfect person to tell me if I've been doing it wrong or what I'm missing, right? But I'll share what I can as far as what has worked for us. So before the doctor's visit, what I try to do is thoughtfully curate a list of questions. And I think in the beginning of our diagnosis, like I was always worried about, can I ask this question? It's not really medically related. It might be like a lifestyle question. But, the thing is, all of these conditions, they all impact our lifestyle. And so,
Yes.
who better to ask than your doctor to get the actual accurate information? And so, over the years, I've realized that no question is out of reach, right? I would hope.
No, oh yeah, no, I totally agree there. And it's, for me as an allergist, it is about managing like the comprehensive, the whole patient, because again, food allergies will affect every aspect of your life. And a good example is sort of when my patients are transitioning into those teenage years and like
Yeah.
dating and how to declare your food allergy, and things like, kissing will come up, and it's something that we have to, talk about together, with the parent there, and so that we're all on the same page and we're getting the appropriate, information. So I totally agree with you about, sort of no question is off limits.
I love that. And it's just finding the right, I think, medical team to where you feel comfortable. It took us a while, but I'm really grateful now. Like we have a really great group of doctors that are, supportive and really want to know and answer those questions. So the other thing that I would suggest is Dr. Payal Gupta. She's our medical advisor to Zestful, and she had a really great suggestion. She suggested creating an album on your phone where you can save photos of like past reactions. You can, save photos of labels that maybe you had trouble with ingredients. or you have a question about some ingredient and it's cross reactivity or something. And then you can save like medical, what is it called? Medications. So
Yes.
I think that's a great idea, like utilizing your phone, because we have our phones on us all the time. I utilize the notes section a lot, like to curate the questions before I get to the doctor's office. And then the other thing I do is any research that you are doing on the internet, there's a lot of misleading information out there. So I
Yes.
would say, put together your research, put together like what would you like to foresee as your plan moving forward, your allergy plan, and then discuss that with your doctor, so that they can back up the information that you're reading and explain any new treatment options and things like that. So I think those are the main things. The only other thing I would say is for us, what we like to do for the day that we actually are going to the appointment, I like to keep a very light schedule if you can, because a
Mhm.
lot of these appointments they take a lot out of you emotionally
Yes.
and sometimes physically if you're getting allergy testing. And I just like to have like things prepared in advance. Like I like to have like something stashed away in the freezer so that I know coming home I'll have like a cooked, safe meal and I don't
Yes.
have to worry about it. And then I can just take care of like myself and my family and just chill out.
Yes, I think that's great advice, and I do. I love the idea of keeping the photo album with
Yeah,
like any potential reactions, and then the notes section with documenting exactly what happened. Because I know what's always top of the mind when we're doing like these sort of yearly exams is hopefully you didn't have any accidental exposures, but if you think you did, sort of when was it, what were the ingredients, and what happened, and sometimes you have to keep a running tab because especially if it's been a whole year, it's hard to sort of go back, off the top of your head. So I love that idea. And also keeping track of your lab values and coming up with a plan, when do we retest? And because you do have to mentally prepare yourself and your family for that, as you stated. And then my other question, tell me about your experience with sending your child to school or daycare, and like the school allergy policy. How did you navigate that situation?
absolutely. So my daughter's in third grade now. She actually just went back to school. It's the end of the year. We did make it
Right.
back to school.
COVID times.
So we actually So we actually just have been revisiting all of these things. It comes at perfect timing to talk about. I think what's worked for us is just to start early. When you are starting school, whether it's like the beginning of a new school year or you're starting a new school, just start as early as possible to reach out to the staff so that you can set up a meeting. Some people call it like a 504 plan meeting, or some people call it a healthcare plan, whatever. There's different types of plans that depending upon the school that you go to. But I think having something in writing, requesting your accommodation is a really great framework. It holds people accountable on both sides. It allows you to touch base with the staff later in the year so that you can, modify it or adjust it if you need to. And then, I think it also just opens up this line of communication, which is so important. Just having your paperwork ahead of the meeting. I think, bring your emergency care plan signed off by your doctor. We have one printed out through FAIR, and just being, prepared as you would for any meeting. What has also helped us is we reach out to the class, so the parents of the class. Like our
Yes.
classroom is not in Sesame Free, so we requested that when we started in
Okay.
kindergarten,
Hmm.
and they accommodated that. And so each year we have new parents that start, and so now the parents know us pretty well, but we still send that letter out to the class because of the new parents, and it just sort of sets a nice tone that you're acknowledging and you're thanking them for making this accommodation and for being inclusive. And then I think as far as navigating school food allergy policies, I have some tips about that I
Great.
they're just things that we've learned. I think anytime you go in and you're wanting to change like school policy, or, it could be a simple thing from like adding like a safe snack list. I think it's important, if you can, to lead with an us versus them approach,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
collaboration, I think, with your school is really helpful and it moves you further along.
Yes.
And I think if you can not let fear be a barrier to communication, um, food allergy folks, like, we have a lot of trauma that we carry with us, and that trauma can turn into fear, and then the fear turns into mistrust. And so I think if we can separate that emotion of fear and mistrust, and just take the experience for what it is, whether you're asking for the safe snack list or you're asking for an accommodation. If
Hmm.
you can just take that experience as a whole and see it for what it is, then I think that it just allows for, openness to the discussion, and it allows for change to eventually happen, but it takes work getting there. It really takes building like a partnership between, two parties. And then the last thing I would say is, like, just practicing active patience, I call it, which basically is, a lot of people think patience is not a tool, like it's inactivity, but sometimes patience can be a tool to move you forward, because the last thing you want to do is send like 15,000 emails to, some to your, let's say, administrator that you saw like 2 days ago, asking them about,
Hmm.
the accommodation or the request that you made. I think we have to have a little bit of trust in the people that we're sending our school to, just as far as like, hopefully everyone has like the best interest of the child at heart. We all want our children to be safe and included. And so I think if we can, make sure that obviously, like, both of you are following up and being available,
Hmm.
but sometimes it helps to just kind of step back a little bit, and let the other person have a little bit of space. Especially what I found with schools is that they have so many opposing parties at play, so even if
Yes.
it's like a simple, let's add the safe snack list to the classroom, they still have to kind of be thoughtful about it, and
So many
roll it out.
stakeholders.
Exactly, so many stakeholders. So that's helped us, I think, in sort of navigating, like, when we change food policy, because we have sort of changed some things through the years, but we've also had people that have been really willing to kind of work with us. So,
Excellent. Thank you for those tips. And, I think we have time probably for one or two audience
sure.
questions. This has been extremely informative. And so, as far as advocacy, we really want to understand, how to support the food allergy community. You gave excellent advice as to how to do that by telling your story, which is applicable to so many families too. Now, the other thing is, it's hard for some people to really understand it, even though you're sharing your experience. And how do you sort of navigate when people don't take food allergies seriously? What do you have any tips or advice about that?
Yeah, I think for us, what's worked is, just to be really confident and clear about your child's food allergies, explain what they are, that anyone could be allergic to foods that are outside of the top 9 allergens, like our daughter is. Well, now sesame is top 9, but
Mhm.
that's important to understand too, because I think there's a lot of misinformation out there about allergies. And then, explaining like what a reaction looks like, how it makes your child feel, anything from like a simple contact reaction to a severe anaphylactic reaction. And then, I think for us, for example, like, sometimes just shedding light on sort of the day to day has helped us. We
Mhm.
had a situation a couple years ago when my daughter was younger. We would go out on this family walk, and my husband would carry this big blue backpack that had my daughter's meds in there. And he also had like lots of snacks, but it was just, it was kind of this big backpack. And So one night we were, about to go for our walk around the block, and our neighbor stopped us and she said, what's up with the blue backpack? You carry that blue backpack everywhere you go. Like you're just going around the block for a walk. And then, later I explained to her, that backpack we carry even if we're going around the block for a walk because it has my daughter's life-saving meds in them.
Yes.
And she just got it. She was like, "Oh," and I could see her face sort of change, and she was like, "Oh, okay, that's serious."
Right. And then I think that's so important, sort of putting it out there, right? Like not, putting it all out there and not being sort of secretive about it and sharing in the, the day-to-day experience that you have to go through. And then we have time for just one more question. How do you manage talking to your child about, teenage life with allergies or tween life with allergies?
Yeah, so my younger daughter is the one with food allergies, and my older daughter has pretty severe eczema and asthma.
Okay.
So she's a teenager now, and it's not food allergy related, but it's an extension of this atopic life.
Hmm.
And I think for both of them, we've just tried to be really honest, about living this life. We try to model the behavior that we want them
Yes.
to portray someday. And that's really hard. Food allergy families, like parents, like we have a lot on our plate. We have to be concerned with their safety, but then on top of it, we're trying to model this like not perfect behavior, but just a behavior that will help them live their best life. And so I think it's just being really communicative, obviously using like age appropriate language when you talk to
Hmm.
your child, but I think if you're cued into your child, you'll know they'll give you cues about what they're going through, what they want to talk about, and then just opening that up for discussion, And I think that, again, it's like a collaboration between your kids and your child. And, they're going to go through different developmental stages. And so we just try to just be there for them as much as we can to help them through that.
Excellent. Thank you. And this time has gone by so quickly. We had so many topics that we addressed, and I hope it was very informative to the audience. It definitely was informative to me. And it brought up issues of, how we can support the food allergy community. And that really was, a focus for this conversation. And so, Shahla, I would like to say thank you so much for being my guest and sharing all the information. And to the audience, thank you for tuning in. And feel free to share this video or, like it if you like it. And also in the description of the video, we'll have a link to Allergy Insider with more educational resources. So thank you again, Shahla. Everyone stay safe. And I look forward to talking to you all again in the sort of next episode. So thank you and take care until next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.